Now we understand how to minimalistically route our pages. Okay, this is very handy. We need to actually have something a little bit more advanced because we want to make sure that this routing process or system here is a little bit more robust. For that, we're going to use the onGenerateRoute because we're inside of a material app that is actually given to us as a property that we can pass. So for now, let's go ahead and comment all of this out. And instead, what are we going to do? I'm going to put just below there. I'm going to start typing this. I'm going to say onGenerateRoute. You notice that it requires us to pass again a method. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and get the one with the body. The settings here is a route setting object that we can actually probe in and get more information about the routing. We'll see in a second. So let's go ahead and construct our routing. The first thing we need to do, it says here that we need to return a routing dynamic type. So to do so, we can say return. I'm going to say material. There is such material page route like this. Just like anything else, any other advanced widget in Flutter, we can pass a builder there. So we can say control space just to see the options we have. And you can see it's going to be pretty much the same what we've seen before. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pass the full body context like this and put a semicolon. All right. Now, what else do we do? This one, of course, will say we want to return something else in turn. Now we're going to return the route controller. I'm going to say route controller, which we haven't created. This route controller is going to pass in settings, and I'm going to pass the settings.name. Okay, there's a lot of things here that we may be a little bit concerned about. So what we're returning is going to be a route controller type, which we haven't created. Let's go ahead and create that real quick. So command, and let's create a class. And there it is at the bottom. We have that class. Now, this class here is going to extend a stateless widget. This actually is going to be a stateless widget. And voila, we have that. And now we still have issues here because we need to pass a parameter here or a field. So we'll say final string, going to be setting name like this, which means we need to create a constructor. So command like that, create a constructor with that field, and let's change this named to settings name to make it so that it's exactly the same as what we're passing there. So what's going to happen here? Well, first of all, this route controller here, as the name implies, is going to control which route the user is going to go to or which route should be presented to the user. What I mean is, well, now that we're passing this through this onGenerateRoute, we pass the settings. The settings here will have the name property, which is going to be the name of the route. As if you have an over, it's going to say here the name of the route, for example, settings like that. So it's going to be exactly the same what we did before. As you see here, we have / main, login, and so forth. So that's how we get, that's what we get from our route settings there. And we're going to pass the route settings into our route controller. So then here we can control, we know exactly where is the user in the route. So are they in the main route or login route and so forth. So we have that way of controlling, which is very convenient because now what we need to do here is to return the correct, you guessed it, the correct page, the correct route. So just like what we did before with this is a little bit more advanced, but it's exactly what we need because we need that control. So we're going to return what? Well, it depends, right? It's going to depend on what? It's going to depend on whether the user is logged in or not. So this is a good place for us to do what we always wanted to do, which means inside of this build method here, the build method of our route controller, I'm going to go ahead and use what we have set up here in this multi-provider, this provider user provider, and check to see if indeed the Firebase auth instance exists, is null, or has signed out, and so forth. If the user is signed in already, we are going to direct them to a certain place. So we are doing exactly the same thing we did before, but in a better and more sophisticated way. And this is the way you should do it. So now what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and get our provider. I'm going to say final, call this user, actually user signed in. I'm going to make this a Boolean by saying provider. Look at this, provider dot of, we have the context, is not equal to null. Okay, And let's make sure that we know what type we're expecting to get, which is the user type. However, remember, is the Firebase user auth. So our user signing in now is going to be a Boolean because we are checking to see if our provider has something. If it's null, then it's going to be false. If it's not null, it's going to be true. So now we can do things like this. We can say, for instance, if settings name or setting name is equal to, we're going to return what page? We're going to return the get started. I think that's what we call page, like that. And I'm going to say else if setting name again, and this is important because remember this setting name here we're passing will have, because we're passing it there, we'll have the settings that name, which means it's going to have this information here of our route. Is the route main? Is the route settings? Is the route login? Is the route whatever else that we have created? Whatever pages we have created, routes in that case, we can access that way. So we are accessing this piece of information from our route object. That's why we are able to do this. Now we can compare, right? So if stat equals what? Login, then what we're going to do? We're going to return login page. Now, we need to think a little bit here. Well, is that true? Do we really want to send users, if they type login, directly to login? Sure. It's important for us to add another condition that needs to be met, which is, or we're going to create a Boolean here, say not signed in, go to main. Okay, what is this? Let's go up here and create this Boolean. I'm going to say final. So we're going to create here a Boolean to check if the user is not signed in and the user is trying to go to the main page, which is a big no-no because we want only signed in users to go to the main page. So I'm going to say test here if user sign in. We know that because we are able to get that information from our provider. How handy. I'm going to copy that. If that's not true, whatever we're getting from our user sign in, so it's not signed in, and settings or setting name is equal to main. So the user is trying to go to main here. So that means then not sign in, user trying to go to the main page, something like that. So this will just always take the user, if they come in and they type login here, and if they're not signed in, either one of those, then they're gonna go to login page. So we are making sure they don't go anywhere they are not supposed to. I'm gonna say else if signed in, go to main, which we haven't created. In this case, we're going to return our main screen page. Okay, let's create this. So what is the logic here? Well, we're going to make sure that the user signed in, Boolean there, and his settings or setting name is equal to main. This means they are good to go. Right? Makes sense. So if user is true, meaning there is indeed a user when we look at our provider, it's not null, so it's true, and settings is main, they can go. So if they are logged in already, they come here and type in main, then that's fine. They can go to the main screen because they have access. And the final, I'm going to say else, if any of these is true, then we're just going to return page not found, like that, which we haven't created. We're going to create soon. So this is dead code, so I'm going to just delete that altogether. And there you have it. Let's revise this real quick. We got rid of this simplistic way of routing our users. We now have taken advantage of on generate route, which we need to pass the actual route, which in this case, we need to pass a material page route, return that. Then we're going to build something. In this case, we're going to build another widget. So we decided to create a different separate class called route controller. And because we need to know exactly what has been passed inside of our URL browser, inside of our browser there, we are going to receive that settings. This one is a route settings object that is passed through this anonymous function, which obviously gets us information about what users have put in here. In fact, if I come up here where this is being called on generate route or route, I'm going to say print. If I say print settings dot name, you will see exactly what I mean, what this means. It means it's going to get the information that it's been typed there. Okay, let's save this real quick. Oh, I'm going to have a problem. For now, I'm just going to say like this, just so, because we don't have that page not found created, so that's why this is not going to compile. Okay, so right, it went straight there because we don't have a user, but let me try something here. If I say main, hit enter, right, it took us indeed to the login because there's no login user. So it went and looked, well, there's login in our settings name, not sign in to go to main, so it's not a validated user. Therefore, this person has to go back to login main. But most importantly, if you go to a terminal, you will see that indeed in our console, we have here, it says main. This is from old time, so ignore all of that. But you can see at the bottom here, we have main. If I come here and try something else, let's say login, even though we're going to be back to login, but you're going to see it says login there. Okay, so you can see that we are reading indeed the route name. Very well. And it works, right? As you saw here, if I try to go again to main, hit enter, goes back here. Now the idea is when you type some gibberish, hit enter, we should take this user to a page not found. At this point here, you can see we're going to get this error because you're going to say the offending widget is this. Cannot find that empty container. You cannot find this route. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen, and that's what we're going to be doing in the next video.